fellow collectors, and welcome to Long's Toys. Today we are taking a look at Voyager class Soundwave, designated number 83 in the Transformers Studio series from Hasbro. He is from the Transformers Bumblebee movie, as you can see right up here. And basically we're just at that point in the Studio series where we've pretty much gone through all of the Bayformers, and now we're doing all of the Transformers we saw for about 4 or 5 seconds on Cybertron in the first 15 minutes of Transformers Bumblebee. But I'm okay with it, because a lot of the forms look really cool, and this guy is no exception. So here's the packaging. You can see we have the reduced plastic window here to cut back on the plastic packaging. Also affords us a lot of room for this really cool artwork here of Soundwave on the front. And you can see that kind of close-up zoom in of that same artwork here on this side. Over here on this side, pretty much just the exact same picture from the front. On the back here, we have a picture of the robot mode and the vehicle mode. I'm not really sure what this is. Surprisingly, we didn't need to pay for any car licenses with this form. I don't know. This says Cybertron Falls. I don't know if that's a location, or they're saying, oh, maybe it's from the fall of Cybertron moment. I don't know. It's very confusing. In any case, I don't know what this is supposed to be, but we'll check it out. So let's go ahead, without further ado, let's get this guy out of the box, and we'll take a closer look. So here's a picture of Soundwave with the backdrop that's included. Very basic kind of Cybertron scene. Not bad, not a ton going on. I always think it would be fun if they're going to do something like this. Have other characters fighting in the background. I mean, maybe that's not as pristine, but I still think it would be more interesting. Some collectors might like a more kind of pristine look to the backdrop, but I just think it would be neat, like maybe have Ravage running over here, or have, you know, Megatron and Prime battling or something in the background. I don't know, that's just me. In any case, they're nice little backdrops that are included, so I just wanted to show that off real quick. So here is Soundwave out of the packaging. He looks pretty cool. He is definitely a very chunky boy, but I kind of love him. This is kind of what I was expecting when they first announced the Transformers movie. Like, I didn't expect them to look exactly like the G1 characters, because they're very blocky and very 80s. But this is kind of a, like, more robotic feel to their 80s designs. And this is kind of what I always wanted, which is why I really like the first 15 or so minutes of Bumblebee. And I'm kind of hoping that's the direction they're going in for future movies. The Bay designs were just a vast departure. A lot of times it just looked like, you know, giant chunks of metal moving around, and I couldn't really tell what was going on. I feel like this is definitely an update to the original, but still favorable to the original, if that makes sense. So I really like the design. He's definitely wider, I think, because his chest area has to include the... I can't even really say what the alt mode is. It's a large brick. Ravage really just transforms into a large rectangular prism. Not really much going on, but you can hit the button here, and he will fit inside. You can kind of see how massive this chest cavity is as I zoom in here. It's going to be big, and Ravage is going to fit inside there once he has transformed into his giant block state. But you have some nice detailing. You see there's paint on the inside. That's going to come into place in the, again, quote-unquote vehicle mode later on. But you have some really nice paint. This gold trim here around the window is nice. The Decepticon symbol. You have a lot of nice paint and detail around his waist here. The head sculpt, I think, is really cool. Again, it's a kind of more robotic take on the original G1 designs. I think they did a really nice job with this. I really like his head sculpt. And a lot of nice paint and detailing on there as well. He's got this kind of shoulder, cannon here that he's always had. And you have a little bit of articulation there so that if you want to kind of have it angled back, you can. I kind of like that look. You can even take the gun and put this in the other one. So if you want kind of a look like this, I think that kind of works. You have a couple options for the weapon storage, which I think is pretty cool. Let me angle this back. So I'm going to take these accessories off for now. But basically they both just peg into these peg holes. And this has a little hinge there. But this is, pretty nicely detailed. It has a little bit of silver and red paint, which looks sharp. Not much to it, but I think it totally works. Going to put those accessories off to the side. The robot mode looks good. I think it looks pretty cool. Let me zoom in here. So, yeah, he's got a lot of nice joints. He's got a couple joints, or I should say he doesn't have some of the joints that I would like. So the way the shoulders work are a little weird. You have a nice hinge here, and you have a rotation, but you don't have an out to the side movement like inside the shoulder. Like these flaps all flip up because of how the transformation works. And so this hinge just works like this. If I can actually show you. There we go. So you can see how that hinge just kind of moves like that. And I really wish this had an out to the side hinge and that this would lift up so you could get the arm out to the side a little bit. Because the way it stands, if you want to lift this out to the side, you have to lift the entire arm. I can't kind of keep the shoulder where it is and just lift the forearm out. It's not a deal breaker or anything, but it is just kind of a point of articulation that I feel like is missing. You do have a nice bicep swivel there. You actually have double jointed elbows. You can't get really far with them because the giant forearm kind of hits into the shoulder up here. And also just kind of hits into itself. It hits into the bicep. So, you know, you have double jointed elbows there, but you can't do a ton with them. You have the way the arms transform, or I should say the hands rather, they fold into the forearm so you don't have any movement there. Again, you have the bicep swivel, but you don't have a wrist swivel. If you want to move at the waist, you kind of have to move this plate here, and then you can get a swivel here at the waist, no problem. Really nice movement here in the hips. You can kick all the way back, you can kick forward, you can kick out to the side, no problem. Just have to move this plate out of the way, because otherwise it will kind of hit. But just swivel it up and you can get all the motion you want. You have a thigh swivel here. You have some double jointed knees, mostly for the transformation, but you have a decent array of movement there. You can kind of move that as long as you don't bend this one first, otherwise you're going to kind of hit. But if you leave that, you can bend it all the way back there, or you can bend all the way here. So you have some options with those double jointed knees. And then in the ankle, you have a nice ankle tilt as well as some front to back. So you really have some nice motion there in the ankle. All in all, it's a lot of nice articulation. I just wish it had that shoulder movement that I talked about. But otherwise, he's really clean. He doesn't really have any back kibble or anything like that. He's even got a little spot down here if you have a stand you could use. So yeah, he's really got a lot of nice detail. A lot of nice paint applications. Overall, I think he looks good. Missing 1 or 2 points of articulation for me. But overall, pretty solid robot mode. So let's go ahead and get into the vehicle transformation. Alright, so to start off the transformation, we're going to come around to the back of the forearms. We're going to pop this panel open and we're going to rotate the hands inside and then close it up. Do the same on the other side. Pop that in. Come up to these shoulders. This little panel over here will flip up. This section up here will flip up like that. Do that on the other side. The whole shoulder is going to rotate up 90 degrees. You can keep the arms straight out like so. You're going to rotate the head around 180 degrees. Just be a little careful because you do have these little spots here and here that can kind of get in the way when you're rotating the head, so just be a little careful with that. This is going to come up, and there's actually a little spot right here that is going to tab in to this little hook right here. So when this comes up, and then that's going to peg in, and these are going to hide the head. So this is going to come up, and then kind of peg in like so, and that covers the face. Then you're going to flip these out to the side and rotate them down 90 degrees. And then you can see here that there's a large tab slot on the forearm, which is going to tab in to this large tab here on his side. So this is going to come down, and that's where you're going to utilize those double elbows. Now, it's probably going to make this want to pop out, so you just kind of have to make sure you pop this back in and then get this. I don't know why mine always does this. I probably don't have the elbows bent correctly. But it will work. I mean, if it doesn't peg in 100%, it doesn't have to, honestly, but we should attempt to make it work as it's intended to work. I don't know why. There we go. There we go. These keep popping out. Alright, then we're going to come down to the hips, and we're going to turn them in toward each other. Come around to the back. We're going to flip open these panels on the back of the legs, or calves. Then we're going to flip out an additional panel, like so, on each side. Then we're going to bring the feet up and rotate them around like this. We're going to flip this around. And then as you do that, you want to flip this panel back down like that. So this is going to come around and then flip this down. These are going to peg into each other like that. And then you want to kind of just bring this up as much as you can, utilizing all the joints in the knees. So just bring this up as close and tight as you can. That's about right. Then you're going to take this, and you can see how there's a tab slot right here, and that is going to tab into this spot here on the back of the forearm. So this is going to kind of rotate down and then just tab in there. Just have to line it up. There we go. I don't know, mine's really not wanting to stay together. I swear I did this earlier and I really didn't have an issue. I'm not really sure why it's not staying together as well right now. I probably have something a little mistransformed, but it's alright. There we go. So that pegs in like that. Make sure that's pegged in. And then these just kind of fall forward a little bit, just like that. And you're pretty much almost done. You're going to lift this section up here. This is going to come around like so. You have to make sure you clear it because sometimes you can have a little bit of clearance issues if you try to come up too fast. So kind of straighten it out, come all the way up. Rotate this 180. Also rotate down here 180. And then this will kind of close up and peg in there. And that's pretty much it. You can take the weapons and peg them into the sides over here. Like so. It's not helping me out here. For some reason, I do have some difficulty pegging those in. This thing's kind of unfortunate because of the way it bends here, and it won't bend all the way down. So you kind of have to figure out a way or where you want that to peg in. Now you could do something with it up here as well, because you can kind of peg into these little spots. I don't know if you're meant to, but you can. You're definitely meant to peg into these. So I could do something like this, where I peg this in here, and then kind of angle it somehow. I mean, it's just kind of dumb, honestly. It's just somewhere to store these weapons. It's not even really a vehicle. I'm not quite sure what's going on with this. I guess it's supposed to be like some kind of hover tank. I mean, let's be honest. They're on Cybertron. They just need to be functional. They don't have to be aesthetically pleasing. If he's going for some kind of hover tank, you know, it just has to be able to get him from point A to B. It doesn't need to have wheels like a, you know, like a Earthbound transport does. So I get it. That said, it is kind of goofy. Also, I will say it's kind of growing on me. I don't know why. It's very, very weird looking, but it's kind of growing on me. It's just a weird, like I said, hover tank, I guess is what they're going for or something. I mean, it would be one thing if they had like a spot where I could kind of put this, even if I could just kind of put this in the center, maybe hook this gun into it somehow and make like a large cannon out of it. I feel like I could really sell the hover tank. But I do think that it's kind of neat that I guess you could still put Ravage in here, even in the vehicle mode, because you're opening it this way. I think that would still work. Now, I don't have Ravage in hand, so I won't be able to test that yet. But when I do get him, I do want to test that out. But I do appreciate that they at least spun that around, because if it was just the back, it would be very plain here. And they were able to put some color in here for the like top section of the vehicle mode. Yeah, I don't know. It's a bit of a stretch, but I can kind of see what they're going for. It's not the worst. I honestly thought I would hate it more than I do. So it's alright, I guess. I think Soundwave is a pretty fun figure. He's definitely not without his flaws. The whole vehicle mode in general, I'm not really quite sure what they're going for. I don't remember if we actually see him transform in the movie. I kind of don't think we do. He wasn't on screen for very long. I think he basically, you know, ejects Ravage and that's about it. So I don't really know if they had anything to go on and they had to kind of invent something for him to transform into, and that very well might be the case. But in any case, it's a weird vehicle. It's kind of growing on me. I'm assuming it's supposed to be some kind of hover tank or hover transport or something like that. I feel like they could have done something with this shoulder-mounted cannon to kind of mount it somewhere in the middle of the vehicle if they wanted to kind of get across that it was a hover tank, or at least give him something to transform into. I think that could have worked a little bit better, but it is what it is. But I think where he really shines is the robot mode here. He looks great. Nice paint applications, nice detailing. The head sculpt looks great. I really like everything about his robot mode. I do wish that he could get the hand in to kind of press the button here on his chest. He can't really pull that pose off because of the way the double jointed elbows here work. Like if I take the gun out of his hand, you can kind of get them up about here, but because you don't have that kind of, like if you had that out to the side shoulder joint that I asked for earlier, I think you could definitely pull it off. But because you don't have that, there's not really a way to kind of get this to where it needs to be. And so unfortunately, you're just not really going to be able to pull off the pose of him pressing the button down. I do think it's nice that that does work. I think it's very cool that Ravage is actually going to be able to fit inside his chest cavity, given how massive Ravage is when he's transformed into his giant block mode. But I think that's really cool that they were still able to pull that off. You know, does his vehicle mode or whatever suffer as a result? I don't really think so. I mean, he's definitely a wider, thicker robot because of that chest cavity has to be larger, but I don't think that's necessarily what caused the vehicle mode to become what it is. But he's very clean in robot mode. He's got no kibble going on. This connects very nicely. You can also store the other gun over here if you like. You have really nice posability, articulation, paint applications. Just really everything about the robot mode really shines. I love the head sculpt. Absolutely love that. So he's not 100%, but I'd say he's probably 8 out of 10, somewhere in there. If you're going to just get him to display in robot mode, then 100%, I think he's worth it. If you're going to transform him back and forth a lot, well, let's be honest, you probably won't because the vehicle mode is kind of weird. Soundwave in the modern era has kind of run into that problem where they don't really know what to do with his alt mode because obviously cassette, players don't really make sense anymore, but they don't know how to update it. They don't know, because even CD players, iPods, those things are kind of on their way out. I mean, you could have them transform into a smartphone, I guess, or an iPad, something like that. But I just don't think that would work as well. So in any case, I still think this guy is a ton of fun. I think he looks good. Just get him, put him on your shelf in robot mode, and then when you eventually get Ravage, you can just kind of pop him in and out of the chest. I mean, let's be honest, that's really what we're here for anyway. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and as always, thanks so much for watching.